So, hello again. This is a continuation of yesterday's romantic story of my boyfriends that I was so struck on and had crushes on. There was a bunch of them. So I'm going to recall some more of them for you. But until then, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. Let's be giving thanks, and I am. Thank you, Jesus. I feel good today. That's 1 Thessalonians 5:18 in the NIV Bible. I use them all. But this comes out of, this little magazine called The Upper Room, and it is so good. I like to look at stuff like that. So I got another picture. Isn't that pretty? And I got my coffee. And James, he's working. He's just always doing something. That's what keeps him young. All right. Now, where we left off yesterday, James interrupted. He had to have breakfast. And you know how I am. I take care of business, and I take care of my man. This one I got struck on. He's a keeper. So this is from 1948 to 1952. I got married in 53 at 16. So anyhow, we had got up to Eddie. And Eddie did my math and my algebra and everything for me. If I didn't have a list, I probably wouldn't remember them all. But I was thinking about them last night. And here we go. So Eddie was basketball captain. And that year, 1952, they needed a basketball queen. So you know what they did? They had a popularity. You could vote. And I guess because I was Eddie's girlfriend, I don't know. I really give the Lord credit. But here I am, a poor little old girl from the country. There was them city girls that were competing, and their daddies owned stores and stuff like that and had big farms. And we just had a rock scrabble farm and we were just plain poor. That's all there is to it. So we didn't have much. And I'd wear scarves to school, and I did get a hold of me 2 scarves, and then the other girls started wearing them. I was a trendsetter in a way. So anyhow, Eddie was basketball king, leader, captain, and I was in the running. Somebody put my name up for basketball queen, and I have told in my other videos, I won. I was shocked. I mean, I was a sophomore. And you know, later on, they made a rule that sophomores could never run for basketball queen again. But I won that year, and the captain of the basketball team came up and walked me down the steps. And I had got a gown from the Goodwill. A friend of mine found me one in town that I went to church with, and I had to wear something here, right here in front, to make it big enough because it was braless, and the bra was built in, and I had to use a couple of wash rags. They worked good. I just put me a cut, and it held it up, but it was so long when I was coming down the steps. First, I stepped on it. I didn't realize you have to hold them up, or you're going to step on them gowns. But she got me a gown at the Goodwill for $3 and didn't even charge me. Back then, you could go to the Goodwill and buy gowns, and later on, I'd go to the Goodwill and I'd buy my girls dress-up gowns like that. And they just had such fun with them because you could get it for $2 or $3. Nobody wanted them, except I needed one. You had to wear a long gown if you was basketball queen. So there I was, basketball queen at 15. One happy girl. Okay, so Eddie went by the wayside after I got out of there. And then I was still 15. And I went to church. And I met this boy called Woody. And Woody was skinny and not too good looking, but guess what? He had a car. He could take me places. So he took me to the movies up Paoli, which was a long ways, black and white and westerns. And we could get them free down Fredericksburg if you want to go sit in the grass. But he took me to the movies, and I was in the car, and He says, I'm going to take you to dinner at my house. Mommy and Daddy's going to have us over. So we went over there, and they had a nice house. And there was a little girl running around, and I've told this, and my brothers know all about it because they watch everything I do, and some of you that are faithful, you know it too. This little girl was running around. I said, what a cute little girl. Where's her daddy? I didn't see no, I saw the young, there's the mama, you know, and she's a pretty young girl. Looks like she's about 23, 24 years old. She says, oh, Woody said, Daddy's her daddy. I said, Daddy's her daddy? He said, yeah. So, Daddy's her daddy? I said, oh, okay. And I knew that that's a bad thing to have to do, is that your own father would have a child with his daughter. And Daddy was the daddy to that little girl, and they didn't seem to think a thing about it. I went home and I told my mom, I said, Mom, I quit Woody. I'm not going with him no more. And I told her the story. She said, you did the right thing. And he was skinny and not that good looking. But she says, I think he would have developed into a real good looking man if you get a few years on him. I said, I don't miss him. I can't get into a family like that. And that's the end of Woody. So the next boyfriend I had also had a car. And his name was Billy. Now, Billy was a big, tall guy and very good looking. And he ran the movies at Palmyra. We had a movie theater. And he's upstairs running the film of everybody sitting down in the audience. And that was, he said, you go with me and you get to see all the free movies. Well, he had a car. I like to go running in a car. So he would take me, and then we would sit upstairs. I'd sit upstairs with him, watching the movie up there with him. That got boring because guess what? Westerns again. And a lot of them were black and white. I went with him a few times. And finally he said, I'm going to take you riding. Let's go out the lake or the river. I forget which. But let's go look at the water. I said, okay. Because, you know, you make out a little maybe, do a little kissing, that's it. That's as far as they went with me. That's a fact, Jack. This is my list. So anyway, Billy and I, we took a drive before he took me home because he'd take me home, and he'd been good to take me home, straight. So we went and we was sitting, we was looking. I think the moon was full. It was very romantic, and the water there, it was beautiful. And he kissed me, and he didn't kiss bad. I was kissed worse, you know, one time, and it was okay. And so he then said, you know, was always of the opinion that if you're going to buy a pair of shoes, you should wear them and see how they feel. He says, and I apply that to married life. He said, if you're going to date somebody and be with them, you need to try them out before you marry them and find out if you really like them. There my eyeballs was popping out of my head again. I said, really? I said, I never heard that. And I don't think I don't believe in that. No way, Jose. Take me home. I said, I'm not into that. No, we are not trying out anything. You just try it on your shoes, not me. So he said, are you sure? He said, you know, it's fun. I said, take me home. Take me home now. Well, I got pretty loud and he took me home. And that was the end of him. Billy was gone. But you know, Billy ended up marrying a girl that I knew. And they had many years of happy married life. And I guess I don't know what happened. I never know. But I do know they never had any children. They were married many years. And then he died suddenly with a brain aneurysm. And he was gone. Young. I mean, he was, I think, in his 40s. And so the woman he married was a sweet girl. And she just stayed a widow the rest of her life. I think they had real true love. All right, after Billy. Oh, yeah, I met this other guy. I couldn't remember. Well, he had a car. Now, this was important back in the day that they have a car because I lived out on the farm and we had to walk about a mile to the mailbox. Only a half a mile, 3/4 of a mile to catch the bus, but the road that led out to the mailbox was a mud road, and his name was Kenneth. They called him Kenny. And so Kenny says, I want to take you out. And he was a little older. He was about 4 years older than me. He was 19, and I was only 15. So I decided to go out with him, and I don't remember where we went. I think he took me to a restaurant and fed me a hamburger. I don't remember. And a Coke. That's what you did that day. You still do it to this day. So anyhow, we went out. We had a pretty good time, as I remember. But on the way home, now you remember I told you this was a rocky road and muddy road back to our house, and you had to be careful as you drive on the high side or you're liable to hit the underneath of your car. Well, he wasn't used to that road, and he hit something with the front end underneath in his car. And so anyway, that's my phone ringing. I'm going to turn it off. It says scam likely. I get a lot of those things. Anyhow, Kenny, let me get my list. Kenny said, I think I busted my radiator. I said, oh no, if you bust your radiator, man, you're in bad trouble. You have to either have another radiator or you got to keep pouring water in it till you get home or you'll burn your motor up. Well, I found out later he got home safely, but he had to replace his radiator. He didn't hardly talk to me anymore. He was done. He wasn't going to take me back that road anymore, no matter how cute I was. So he married somebody else, and they lived very happily also. Now, there was another boy. His name was Russell, and I met Russell down at the Log Cabin Church at New Salisbury, Indiana. And so he was red-headed and cute as he could be. And there was this other girl there that just really liked him, and I thought he was cute. And so he said, would you be my girlfriend? I said, okay. You know, at that time now, I was not 15. When I met this one, I was only about 12 or 13. It was before some of these others. Got to get it straight. So anyhow, Russell said, you'll be my girlfriend. I said, yes, I will. And so he said, well, if you'll be my girlfriend, he said, I'm going to wear my good breeches next Saturday night. And I'm going to be wearing them so you can see them. So, so next Saturday night, he had his tan breeches on that had a nice crease down the front, and he looked good. But this other girl that kind of liked him a lot, she got me in a corner and she said, you know he's my boyfriend. And he was my boyfriend before you got here. And you know what I said? Because I didn't like him that well anyway. I said, you can have him. I don't want him anyway. I said, there's others. There's plenty of boys around. You can have him. So she said, okay. I mean, when you're 12, 13 years old, that does go on. It did go on. So she got him. And they dated for 3 or 4 years, and she got married to him at 16, and he was about 16. And they lived with the folks a while, and then they moved to Florida, I heard. And I heard he went down there, her and him, and he got in with some construction company, and he got to be a partner, and he ended up a millionaire. And I passed him up. That's life. But I heard later they had 7 or 8 kids. Now, I wouldn't want that many kids. I had 3, and that was enough, and we adopted a son. So let me see. Oh, yeah, I didn't tell you about Paul. Paul Roll. Now, we used to have a skating rink in Fredericksburg. And so when I was 14 and 15, the thing to do on a Saturday night, if we could get Daddy to take us in the pickup truck, was we could go skating while he messed around and talked to the old men about the gardens and farming and all that kind of stuff. So there was another old man there. I didn't usually have 50 cents to skate, but this old farmer would give me 50 cents and some of the other kids so that we could skate, because he knew we just didn't have no money, and he had a big farm and cows and everything, and he could give us 50 cents. It was nothing to him. And he enjoyed seeing us skating. The old men, including my daddy, would stand outside the ring, the skating rink ring, and watch us skate. And Paul was so good looking. Only problem was he was a bit short. But everybody wanted to go with Paul. His daddy owned River Bottom. Now, if you owned River Bottom in Fredericksburg, you was rich. And they had fields and fields of River Bottom. And I really wanted to go with him. But you know what? When he asked me out finally, I had already met Buddy. I had to turn that cute man down, that cute guy down, because I was already going steady with Buddy. Oh, I forgot to tell you about Charles. Now, I met Charles. I don't have him on the list. But Charles went to church where we went, and his parents really liked me, and they would come all the way to Fredericksburg. Things changed back there. It don't matter. Anyway, they would come and get me and take me to church all the way to New Albany. And Charles and we hit it off pretty good, but I made friends with one of his cousins, his aunt, or something, and we slept upstairs, and the girls did, and Charles slept in one part of the upstairs. And one morning, it was hot up there, and we was laying there with the covers thrown off. Of course, we had on undies and everything, and there he was staring at us, and I quit him. He scared me, so I didn't go with him anymore. I quit Charles. Charles had a really sad story. Well, this other girl at church really liked him, and so he started dating her, and he got her pregnant. This is a true story. He got her pregnant, and they moved away, and they got away from God. Now, she was a Christian, and he was too at that time. They were serving the Lord, I thought. I mean, you know, they was in church all the time. But they moved away, and they bought a beer joint somehow or other. His daddy was well-to-do, and maybe he paid for it. I don't know, but they had a liquor joint. And they had 3 little kids, and I have told this on another video, and it's a true story. They had 3 little kids, and she was 7 months pregnant with her 4th child, and she was a waitress and a bartender and a help in the beer joint they had. And she was serving one night, and Charles went somewhere, and he came back, and she was talking to this other guy, and he went into a rage. He thought, because she was standing close to him, that she was being unfaithful to him. He shot her through the stomach and killed her and the baby, of course. Killed his wife. He was in a drunken rage. He didn't have his right mind. His daddy he got prison, and his daddy fought 10 years and spent all the money he had to get Charles out of prison. Charles built the house that I bought, that I live in, 1963. Charles built it, and it's a nice house, 3-bedroom. I added a half bath, and that's where I still live, in Charles's house. And I found out later that he was going to get out of prison after 10 years, and he got out, and he came to visit me soon as he got out of prison to his house, and he's knocking on the door, and I said, Charles. He said, yes. He said, I'd just like to come in and visit. So he came in and visited, and we chatted, and he ended up marrying a girl that went to our church also. And I will say, Charles sincerely gave his heart back to God, sincerely. And so he started going to the church we used to go to, the Assembly of God Church. And fact is, the pastor's wife remembered him when I told about Charles before, and I have told about him before. And she said yes. And so his wife didn't care much for the assemblies, and she didn't go all the time with him, but he went all the time. And he was truly a man of God, and I don't know if he's still alive or not. But Charles straightened his life up. But what a sad story. Things happen in this life that you would never believe would happen to your friends and your boyfriends. So that's what happened to Charles. And Charles got married to this other girl named Betty. And they had one son. And I don't know how he turned out. You lose track of things you don't know. Because Buddy and I ended up going on the evangelistic field. And then I met Buddy and married him at 16. And that marriage lasted 44 years. And it was up and down because he did not get saved and serve the Lord for 18 years after we were married. I prayed for him for 18 years, and the Lord answered my prayer, and he turned out to be a minister, an evangelist that traveled from church to church because he was a singer, and I always loved his singing. He'd bring his guitar every time we'd court, and the way we courted was we would walk through the woods and hold hands and kept it simple till we got married. I was a virgin, and he was a virgin. You know, that don't work too good sometimes when you're 16 years old and he's only a couple of years older. You just learn the hard way. That's what we did. Nobody told us anything, hardly. So, I know more now. I've been married 3 times. I'm going to hang this up. But Buddy and I had a happy marriage for many years. After he accepted the Lord, we had many adventures traveling on the evangelistic field, and I'm going to have to tell you more about them sometime. We hit some churches in West Virginia. We went to the West Indies for 3 weeks, and we traveled to Oklahoma and went to Florida, Texas. I think it's Florida, Texas. I mean, we saw the country, New Jersey, New York State. One time we was in New York, and I didn't realize we was traveling, pulling a 5th wheel behind us. And I said, honey, what state are we in? I said, I guess I just have to do like Paul did. Whatever state you're in, to make the best of it. And that's what we did. For 14 years, we traveled full-time on love offering. And the Lord took care of us and blessed us. And Buddy went home to be with Jesus when he was 63. And then I met another man at the mall and married for companionship the second time because I was so lonely. And that marriage lasted 11 years. And Floyd was a sweet man, and he was good company a lot of the time. And sometimes he wasn't. That's life. But we traveled to Florida for several years. I bought a little motorhome, and we would camp, wherever it was free a lot. And then finally we got a regular campground not far from Sebring. And Sebring had big flea markets we went to quite often, and they were fun. My problem was I couldn't find enough books to read. So I'd have to buy books at the flea market or at the Salvation Army or the Goodwill, which I did, because I'm a reader, and I got a good book going right now. And that's oh yes. And then Floyd passed away after 11 years of marriage. He got Alzheimer's, and he had a brain bleed, and after that he never spoke, and we had to put him in a nursing home, and he lasted about 2 years in the nursing home, and then God took him home. He didn't talk anymore. He didn't know me anymore. I bought him a baby doll to hold, and he loved baby dolls. Him and his wife, only wife besides me, used to babysit these little kids, and he enjoyed those babies so much that they helped raise. The mother was a doctor, and the father was a scientist of those 2 little girls. They're probably 50 years old now. But anyway, I've had an interesting life. And so, when Floyd passed away, I was crying a lot, and I finally went on Lexapro, and that did help. I would say, God gonna get me through this. But no, I had to have some help. Doctor told me to take it. And so a head nurse out there said, you need to take some Lexapro. I said, my doctor gave it to me, and I'm afraid to take it. She said, take it, cut it in pieces, and take. So after about 4 days, I wasn't crying every time I went to the nursing home, which was nice. So anyhow, Floyd lasted 11 years, and then I changed churches, And that's when I met James, number 3, about 20 years ago. And of course, we've been married 15 because Floyd was still in the nursing home and his wife was still very ill and they passed away. And there was other widow ladies in the church. I was one of them, where I was going at that time. But he didn't. I grabbed him. When he became available, yes, sir, Bob Jack Chicken Tree. Such a tall, handsome man. And I love him today. And he interrupted my first video this morning about my boyfriends. But I take care of him and I cook for him. And we had that rack of ribs yesterday. And there's enough for tonight. But tomorrow, I'm already planning. The way to a man's heart is through his stomach. And he still loves to eat. He's 8 years younger, kiddos. And I am 91 and he's 83. But he's healthy and I'm healthy. And we're thanking the Lord for our blessings every day. Every day. So I'm going to have stir fry tomorrow. I'm going to make my rice ahead of time. And thaw everything out. Get it out of the freezer. You can save a lot of money if you use freezers. And he bought me a new freezer for over at his house, and I've been using it. So y'all be good today. Walk that walk where Jesus would be pleased with you. And I've had fun. That's the end of my boyfriends. No more boyfriends. Grandma has got the perfect one. He is a keeper. Walk that walk now where Jesus would be pleased with you. Love you. Bye-bye.